Hello, thank you for logging on. And again, this is a wee seminar or a wee webinar we're doing. We're doing a short session more about getting in, out of the bed, and then actually legs going in and out of the bed as well. And then we're going to do a short bit at the end with moving somebody up the bed. Peter is online to answer any questions. This is John, my assessor from Northern Ireland, and I'm Keith McMurray, the sales director and sort of a assessor for Lisclare in Scotland and Ireland, and obviously England and Wales as well. I'm sure Ruben's on hand for any technical questions that you may need to ask, and if there's any questions, we'll sort of go through them at the end. The most important thing is, though, this is all being recorded. So if there's anything you'd like to see towards the end, you'll be able to get the recording, and you'll be able to stop it and watch it from your YouTube channel. So first of all, what I want to do is talk about bed positioning in the room, okay? Obviously, the biggest problem we have in home care is the way the bed's set in the room and the access to the points within the bed. Ideally, you'd need access for around 3 parts of the bed head and the 2 sides. Sometimes that's achievable, sometimes it's not. But especially for trying to get legs and limbs in and out of the bed, this would actually assist in a couple of ways. What I wanted to talk about first was, though, was somebody had asked on the briefing beforehand about how does a patient get their own legs in and out of the bed. Well, I've asked a wee survey in the office today, and it was interesting because they asked them how they actually get in and out of bed themselves, and none of them could answer me. In the nursing point of view, everybody comes to the bed and sits down and then has to get swept into the bed. Myself, actually, I thought about it last night, because what I would actually do is I will go onto the bed, put my knee on it, and gently roll into the bed. So somebody with heavy limbs, you're going to have to ask them their way of getting in and out of the bed themselves. But today is focused more on a care provider, and maybe 2 care providers if it's professional, to start what they're talking about, okay? So we're going to bring John across, and we're going to pretend this is a divan bed first. So basically, the most important thing is to have an assist rail on the bed. Thank you, John. He takes his shoes off. So we take a wee seat, and you'll notice John sitting right beside the assist rail. That's the important thing. Now, nice thing about this with different camera angles. So I'm going to pretend this is a divan bed, and you'll actually see now John's feet have just cleft the ground. So if John wiggles himself forward a bit to get his feet on the ground, that's one of your first problems of getting somebody into a bed. Their knees are lower than their hips, which naturally will make them slide off the bed. This could be a Sarah-Steady, or it could be a return or a Lotus stand aid coming in to do this. And if this is a short person on a divan bed, you're going to find it difficult to sweep them into the bed because you want them to get back further. What we would tend to use is the soft footstool. If I put it down, bring it into John, and then John can walk back into the bed by pressing down into the footstool. Thank you, John. And now he can rotate round and get into bed. But if you notice, this has the silk lining up the center. So that is your slippy part, or your low friction. And then this is your high friction area, which stops John from falling out of bed. So you get the idea that the base sheet in these in-bed systems, these are the Superfine, can actually assist with getting somebody in and out of the bed without shearing their hips. You get the point there. The biggest hassle you have in divan beds is they're getting higher and higher, and that's what I've noticed. Obviously, this is a variable height bed, and basically we've got a couple of settings in this because it actually goes low. So when I press low, I can set this for the right setting for John to get in and out. And in this bed, it'll actually stop before it goes to low entry. There's a stopped, and now it's going into low entry. Okay, so we're going to do the next part. So John's condition is going to get slightly worse, bless him. And I'm going to ask him to sweep round. There's the bed stopped at 38. You'll notice that's a nice height for John. Now, this is the problem areas, okay? We're not going to do plus size just yet. Obviously, normally with me, it'll do plus size. But what I want to try and do is assist John in with his legs at this point, okay? Now, there's a couple of wee cheats I'm going to show you. Okay, I'm going to, oops, take all these off, okay? I have 3 devices here to help me lift John's legs in and out of the bed. Now, the first question somebody's going to ask is, what weight am I lifting? And I'm going to show you how to check that in a minute or two. Now, what I'm going to use in this case and because John's got nice thin legs, is a limb sling. Okay, this we can get disposable from ourselves, and you can get a wider one that basically is for plus size patients. But this is designed obviously for the hoist. But believe it or believe it not, it's actually quite handy to use for this because it's nice and long. Now, if you all know your weight limits, if this is a lady standing here, because John's limbs are obviously below my knee height, the weight limit for close is actually 13 kilograms. And if it's, basically if I'm further away, it becomes 3 kilograms. So what I'm going to do is John's going to be a good lad and feed this in behind his legs. Okay. Now again, this is where the person needs to have good tone. Good job. That's right. So what I can actually do now is bring that down to John's ankles. John holds onto the assist rail. Now, rather than lifting, what I'm actually going to do, I'm going to walk around and basically slide John's legs up onto the bed. If I walk around here, John's legs are on the bed. Now you'll notice he's too far down, but we'll approach that in a minute or two. Okay, so you get the idea. At no point did I actually lift or do anything like that. Basically, I slid John's legs up the bed. Now, all right, John, this is where I bring it back out again. There we go. And John, if you stand up a second, please, we'll put this on the bed. Now, John's condition has got slightly worse, bless him. But what I want to try and do, and this is the important bit, I'll not use the wedge anymore. The footstool. Thank you, John. Now, what we have to do here is a slight difference. I'll leave that there for a second, John. What will need to happen is before John sits on the bed, I need to prepare this. So John, if you go around there, please. This has to be set to a 45-degree angle. So if John takes his end down that way, so you can see what we're talking about. Bring it out that way, John, so you get the shoot. Now, why I'm doing that, okay, as I said, John's condition is slightly worse. At this point, I would have this tucked in at the far side under the mattress, which John is going to do for me. Please and thank you, John. But you can see that at 45 degrees. So I'm going to lower the bed again. And the reason why I've done that is it means that the sheet will make it easier for John to be swept around because John's condition has got slightly worse. God forbid me saying it. So that's it now set at 38. Now this I've likened to, if I now get control of poor John, Parkinson's disease. So John backs up and comes to the bed and basically collapses down and falls flat. Don't lift your leg up, John, you're ahead of me. Nope. Now, if they do that, we don't need to do it. If they lift the legs back out of the bed, John. There you go. So John's ended up in that position, not very comfortable, as I tell you. There, John, there you are, and lie flat. And now, I've seen this with Parkinson's disease quite a lot, and they'll look to the carer now to go, I need to get into bed, but I've already prepared the bed to do this. I've done this on a divan bed for patients, but you do need the assist rail. So I need John to hold on to the top of the assist rail. At that point now, they're safe. My main concern was if they came too short and collapsed, if the slide sheet isn't tucked in, there's a possibility that it starts to slide this way a bit if they hit it wrong, because this patient is not in control of when they fall. I'm just going to untuck. But what that's now done is it actually gives me a better and easier slide to sweep John's legs up the bed. So again, and the limb slings are great for this because of the length. If I do that, catch John's ankles, and again, sweep round, you'll notice the sheet making things a lot easier. And at this point, I'll go around and get the controls. You can see John is on the bed. I can bring him up to full working height. He's perfectly safe. This bed has side rails all the way around, so I'll just push one half up for the meantime. So I'm just bringing John up to full working height for myself. I'm 6'2". I do apologise, so I needed to come up a bit nice and high. And again, I'll just hook that in there. Now, John, I'll just lower this down for you. And at this point, and I'm going to go through this in a wee minute or two. Again, John described his condition as lower tone, so I can literally start getting him back up the bed. I'll take the limb sling out. And as you can see, I can do wee bits at a time. I know I'm stretching over the side rail, but at 6'2", and I can do wee micro moves. There's John's centre of the bed. Okay. Just to show you, John is of average size and average weight, quite muscular. He likes me to say that. But basically, John lost his tone there, and I was doing most of it. Okay. Give me a second. Switch off. Now, just to give you an idea, what I'm going to show you is the problem when you get heavy edema legs. Okay. Heavy edema legs are one of the issues that I have. And how do you know what weight you're asking somebody to lift, or are they assisting themselves? They're going to show you a trick of the trade. Okay. Again, give a wee nod to Hogan for this one. My mentor. He thinks in a lovely, simple way, which I enjoy. So I'm going to ask John, I'm going to lower the bed down a bit, just to get himself sitting at the side of the bed. Not just yet, John, because the bed's too high. We will get shouted at. Okay. Again, this bed stops at the optimal height for a patient to get in and out of the bed. Okay. And maybe cheat a wee bit for John. And elevate the legs slightly. And then John knows to wiggle his shoulders about because I'm using the backrest. Okay. This is what we call natural pattern and compensatory pattern. John knows to do that, so his shoulders aren't getting caught in. So I'll ask John just to swing his legs out of the bed and hold on to the assist rail for a second. So you wonder why I was putting things in and out of my pocket. Now, if John lies down, and because Hogan was a traveller, he always had his wee scale for his luggage. Okay. So do you want to know what weight I'm lifting? Okay, John, if you hold that for me a second. This is a handicare version, stroke system robotics now. And it's a soft version for community. There's a wipeable version. But if you're in the acute sector, I think the limb slings work better. And you can get patient-specific limb slings and you can get bariatric. So if John had a very edema leg, okay, thank God love him, it was his left. What I can do is put this around. You'll see there's plenty of padding on it. And John loses his tone in his leg. I hook on the weight scale for the luggage, believe it or not, and I start to, John, lose all your tone. Work against me. But basically, I do that and slide up, even just the one leg. That, and this is where I took my glasses off, was, believe it or not, nearly, how did you read that, John? I'm going to get my glasses. 15 kilograms, is it?
Only 7.
Gives you an idea. That gives you what you just pulled around. So if you're somebody who was saying in any device that that's awful heavy, say it's a lifting belt or a turn, it's a very simple way to see how much you're doing compared to the patient. I'll ask Donna just to pass my glasses over a second. Sorry about this. Have you done it? You're right, John. 13 kilograms. And that was John resisting. So you get the idea that when somebody says something's too heavy to lift, this is a very simple way of checking it, not very expensive, and it's just a scale. So if somebody starts to say, that's too heavy for me, we can actually judge that yourself. A very important moment. when somebody's lifting anything, and it's actually a quite easy way of doing it. And again, I think I bought that on Amazon for about £6 or something like that. But you get the idea. So, heavy oedema legs. So John sweeps himself around. We've just weighed the leg to see what size it is. Now, the problem you have with plus size legs is obviously they're going to be extremely tender and extremely swollen and very easy to break the skin. And you're coming close to a judgment here of what's the right thing to do. If the patient's able to assist in any ways, they can do it using that. And if they can't, and I use a scenario that I had, a patient in Dublin, lady's name was Celine, happened to be, same as my wife. Basically, I would never even thought of weighing her legs, but I would say each leg weighed about 6 stone in weight. And it was very tender and very things. And I tried everything to get it up, but she was crying with pain, it was sore. And the only way I could get her onto the bed, and now she could walk into the room and sit down in the room, was a gantry. And I actually had to do a physical lift with her and bring her onto the bed and set her down. Because somewhere along the line, that might be it. And this is one of the unfortunate things, if somebody's trying to get their limbs in and out of the bed, it could be the decisive thing that you are actually not adhering to the manual handling laws, which nobody wants to hear, but that's what you have to deal with, weights and sizes, okay? So you get the idea of getting in and out of the bed. It's not that complicated. You've got plenty of choices, boot stools, limb slings, things like that. But the limb sling, although it says it's used for the hoist, you can actually use it as a lifting device. But if you notice, the reason why I chose that and not this was I was able to keep my back straight using the limb sling because of the length of the sling. If you're doing a physical lift and it's working well with it, then one of the flexi moves, which is this, what this is called, I'm sure somebody's asking that, is what you would use. So you get the idea of the difference, okay? And again, the plus size limb slings that we do would be twice the length of this, and you might just have to do one leg at a time. So that gives you the idea of up and down the bed. All right, folks, so we're going to go, in and out of bed. It's one of the most challenging lifts in nursing. There's no point denying it. And if you get a negative active patient, like I showed you with Parkinson's, who just collapse on the bed, that's the one that they just expect the carers to do the work. And that's what you have to watch. But you must minimize the risk to the carers because they are actually doing a physical lift. Okay, the reason why I didn't probably take the proper stature is my knees are shot. So if I get down on my hunkers, I will literally have trouble getting back up again. So I'm easier to take a position and sweep it up into the bed. So. Yep, we'll do that next. The in-bed system is our own brand. We have them to fit wider beds, standard beds. I'm just going to hand you that, Don, otherwise it'll be wiggling about. On the glass. So you get the idea. The in-bed system, if John gets up a wee second for me, please, and thank you. There's 2 systems in this, basically. And I use the base sheet first. This is our own system, starting to be widely used. And basically, the bottom system would be what we call the in-bed base sheet. The base sheet itself can be used as a slide sheet to remove the friction when you turn. It's the old-fashioned maternity one of having silk sheets, something similar, except these are satin, and they can be washed and laundered at high hospital temperatures, okay? What makes it a bit easier is once I introduce what's called the 4-way top sheet, for the more mature nursing staff like myself, this is an old-fashioned, weight-tested draw sheet. We're going to do more about the in-bed systems, about turning this Friday, because I wanted to focus more about why this works so well within the bed. And the main reason is it's already in the bed. That's what makes it work. We're just going to put the 4-way sheet on. Now, if you hold that microphone. Now, you'll notice on this, there's a top side, okay? There's 2 lengths of sheets that we do. There's a standard sheet and there's a full-length sheet, but I tend to use this as the 140 long because I always like the heels to be on the sill. And if John and I does good duty because I'm not tucking it in, okay? Normally I would tuck these into the sheets, but because he's John and he understands all this, he's going to just sit on the bed for me. Oh, yes. Now, once the person would say they were hoisted onto this, You want everything to be nice and unwrinkly. Nurses do not like wrinkles. I'll talk about directions so you can hear me in a minute. So, sorry about the technical difficulties there, folks, but you can see my voice bouncing up and down in the monitor. I just want to show you a couple of wee things here. And John let me down by not having straighty socks, so we'll tell live everybody. The problem with nursing beds normally is obviously there's normally going to be a headboard in this bed. But the headboard basically will cause a bit of an issue for clients who obviously come down the bed with feet or implant power fixation. Basically what would happen is the toes touch the end of the bed, and nurses don't like that because obviously pressure care on the toes. I'm using this bed particularly for this. 1 second. Don't see inside that silver box, you make extension. But basically what will actually happen is I need to get John off the bed by myself, okay? Now I'm going to check out John's capabilities. And basically what I'd like to do is elevate the legs up. And I'm going to use John as a positive active patient. And John can reach behind him and wiggle himself and push himself up the bed. There's nothing wrong with that at all. That actually just allows John to move himself up and down the bed himself. There's no reason why that's wrong. So I'm going to lower the legs down a bit. And I'm going to show you a trick with the bed. If I lift the legs up, which is called the fighter knee kick, if you lift the end of the legs of the bed, you'll notice that John's ankles stay down and his knees go up. Now, hopefully you can hear this in the sound. So if I lower John down, you'll hear the clicks. 1, 2. There's the third. Raven, you can go to camera 2 now. I've got it on, I think. Right, so when I now raise it up, you'll notice John's feet actually rising up in the air. Like so. Okay? So basically what that does is creates a nice slide for John to slide up the bed. And if he's got any strength in one of his arms and wiggle about, he can do it. But one of the problems with a profile in bed is quite simply, if a patient goes to use it and doesn't try and maneuver themselves, and would be negative active and doesn't move, they'll just push themselves down the bed. And the reason is quite simple, that when we bend over, our spine elongates. But the bed can't replicate that, even with reverse travel or auto-regression, the mattress still stays in the same spot. So I lift this up for John, and rather than push them down the bed, I just get my hand in here and very gently bring him back and forward. And you'll notice John's, this is where you need to strike his socks for Donna's sake. You'll see his trousers stay in place, but his feet start to elongate out of his trousers. Would you believe it? And basically what's happening is his pelvis is rotating. Now if I ask John to lean forward, and if I bring John's head back, you'll notice that he's actually slid up the bed by a good 6 to 7 inches. This is incredible. You get the idea. At this point, I can leave John unattended by lifting the side rails or by tucking the slide sheet in. But that's one way of doing a slide sheet by yourself with no assistance at all, and I've got John in position. So you get the idea. So basically, if I was leaving John unattended and he happened to be using the control, switch back to camera 1, please, Ruben. You get the idea. John's in the perfect sitting position to watch TV, to eat, to do everything, because I always encourage anybody using a profile in bed to feel what it's like if you don't work the bed. A lot of people didn't, or work your shoulders up. A lot of people wondered why a bed comes with a lifting pole. It was so the person could take their back off the backrest of the bed. You get the idea in that. Now, we're going to get John to be a bit more, unfortunately, negative active, as I would call it. And it basically hasn't the capability of maybe doing certain parts. So we're going to go for right side paralysis. I'm going to bring the bed down flat. All right, John. I will use the auto regression one. I will have to watch you don't fall over my cable. So now you see why I've got this wee pad hanging up on this side. So John hasn't got much strength in his left arm, but he might have good strength in his left leg. So what I'm going to do, I'll come around here. And this basically is a wee square dicing. That's all it is. So John can move his left leg. So I'm going to do a wee cheat first. I do apologise. John, lift your leg down a wee bit. And I'm going to bring John down the bed, bless him, because he's too far up the bed now as it is. There you go. So John lifts his left leg up. And if you notice, right, John, lift it up so I can get underneath. And basically I put the dicing in because he can't press down on the silk. Okay, I will come here into what would be the proper nursing position. Okay, and I'm going to rise the bed up a wee bit again to give John a wee bit of a slope. So again, there we go. Elevate the leg piece. Lower, you hear the clicks. And I'll do it in the second one. There we go. Up comes the leg. You'll see it coming up in the air. Now, John and I need to work together. So we'll use ready, steady, slide. But the difference being is, of course, my nose and my toes follow the same direction. And this is just like doing your manual handling, except you don't have any of that side. You actually have John doing that. So ready, steady, slide. Person up the bed. Again, the single care provider is becoming more and more popular. Usually I would be aiming that for a family member, because usually there is a family member left in the house. And usually this is early in the morning, wanting to get the person up the bed. And I've done a lot of in-service training with family members to do that simple maneuver. Now I'm going to go there. John has lost all strength. Obviously, what I can approach would be a carer. Obviously, a team of carers can use this just like slide sheets. It's already on the bed, so therefore they can just walk in and do exactly what they would do as if they were just putting a slide sheet, except they don't have to put it in. That's the difference. So again, to get the wrinkles out, I come to the corners if you want, but where John's lying is flat. So again, sorry, John. Now, I've been trying to avoid all this, but it does happen. If a patient spasms, they will come down the bed. Now, John's a good 5'10", 5'11", isn't it? 5'11", I'm proud. And I always like to see his heels on the bed. So basically what I would do in this case, and this is where John cannot give me assistance. So I do need the knee kick this in a big way. Now, some of the beds, they don't have the ratchets on it. Some of them do. That's just something that you, and it actually doesn't show you that in the instructions, which I find amazing. Okay, so when I do that, fully up, lower, and listen to all the clicks. I know there's 4 in this bed, and I'll just do 3 this time again. Because that creates a great slide for me to get the hips up the bed. And that's why I like the heels on the silk or the satin. And the reason being is, if John had a wee spasm where the wee leg goes up and down like so, he's not rubbing it against the cotton, he's rubbing it on the satin, and it removes that friction away, okay? You can get full length ones. I'd probably only use that if I could, even just to sweep legs on the bed, but there's an awful lot of sheet. So I need access to be where I'm standing here. Access is your biggest enemy in home care because they'll usually have everything tucked around them. I need to be able to get access to one side of the bed for single-handed care to get them up the bed, because this bed could be up against a wall and no exit left, bottom or top. So even with my size and weight, okay, I can come here, grab the sheet, take a nice profile and lean back, but I'm sliding John diagonally towards me. The next stage, I'm afraid this is my age group. I call this the Tommy Cooper move. And I'm going to bring the bed up a bit before this. Because remember I've said I've got no access on that far side. So I bring John right up to my working height. This is a super bed. It goes from 23 to 80. Incredible. Okay. And basically, what I'm looking to do is where John's pressure points would be, which would be shoulder and hips. You'll notice I'm leaning into the bed. Now, this is not my weight doing it. It's a good mattress. If it was an alternating system, I'd have the mattress on firm. And if I lean into it, very gently, John goes into the center of the bed. So I've centralized him on the bed. Again, if there was two cars and you had access to both points, this is easy because it's just like a slide sheet. And again, they would go to four corners, put against themselves, and that would basically give them a chance to lock it out. Again, I'm going to bring John up into the sitting position. He's getting looked after today, John.
Sport.
Just down a bit. And again, because I know John hasn't got the upper body strength to do this, I'm going to have to do it for him. So basically, wee slight movements. And all I'm doing is letting the friction slide John up the bed as his spine elongates. Again, you'll see the socks coming. I'm going to get you another pair of stripy socks. To see the actual socks coming out of it as his hip and his pelvis rotate. And you'll see that his feet don't touch the end of the footboard because there is none, but his heels are always on the mattress. Now, my risk assessment for this is tuck it in or not tuck it in, okay? Tuck it in if there's no side rails. There is certain areas that don't use side rails, which is still a strange thing to me. If there's side rails on the bed, there's no reason. And the reason why I say that is I'm going to ask John to do what I would call a negative active patient would do, or it might be a patient with slight dementia. Now, I'm not going to take his back, I'm going to take the backrest down a bit. What that patient, and the only way they can come down the bed, is dig their heels in, and John lifts his hips slightly and pulls himself down the bed, wiggle down the bed. You get the idea. That's enough, John. Thank you. Because the patient did that themselves, okay? And immediately I would have already got the side rail on. That type of patient, I would have locked this sheet in, but it has slid down over the top of the rail anyway, and immediately up with the leg rest. Down with the backrest. I'm going to show you one move that family members did, which surprised me a bit, but there was no reason why not. What they actually would have done, because the mother was doing this with her son, but she took the bed off the brakes off, moved it away from the wall slightly, and actually came round here. She reached across, grabbed the sheet at the shoulders, and just leaned back. She asked me, was there anything wrong with that? There's not. She was doing it with her good posture and felt in control at all times, and she was quite content. She liked both hands on it because she couldn't do the lateral transfer because she had arthritis in her hand. So you get the idea of going up the bed, but that's all done by one person. If there's a team of two, we've started to use these sheets now in the acute sector a lot. And basically what that means is that carers were able to move the challenge in nursing patients to get the slings on, and we're going to do that on Friday, and we do apologise about the sound. But I'm going to get John into a nice sitting position now and get him out of bed because he's laid down enough. Bless him. All right, John, get you flat. Just a slight knee kick. You'll not even see that, but that's enough for me to be comfortable. John knows I'm resting the backrest up so he can wiggle the shoulders. Good on you, John. I'll bring this side wheel up. Sorry, John. And then lower the bed. Not just yet.
You're just getting ready.
Just getting ready. I know you are. You're too keen to get up. So I think I've covered all my wee bullet points that I wanted to do today. I wanted to keep this short and sweet because I think if you do this for an hour, 2 hours, you sort of go into lockdown yourselves. I will be getting John out of the bed now. Okay?
Answer the questions.
1 second on it. Because the sheet's on, okay, and this is where you have to be careful. Okay, because I haven't done out of the bed yet. Now, I brought the bed down to a nice height. John's untucked the sheets. And if John is now more able-bodied, because we're bringing across his wee steady or his Lotus or whatever, if you notice, it's a lot easier for me, and John sits himself up, to get John out of the bed than it is into it, because the sheet worked with me. And you're back to that 45-degree angle. And if John pops up, you'll see where he sat. Well, you won't actually, but there's no wrinkles. Okay? So I'm going to go through the questions now with Donna. And I do apologise about the sound, technical issues.
Okay, so there was a question asked about lifting the legs with the sling onto the bed. There's a huge shear on the buttocks which could cause skin to break down.
That's okay, I'll stop there. That's one of the reasons why I always did that with the base sheet on the satin. And if you're even more concerned, you do it with the top sheet on, and that removes all the shear and friction off it completely.
And again, using the sling with the silk surface could still cause shear, so would you use a hoist?
The hoist, but I'm a different person than most. My hoist is usually my go-to for as quickly as possible. If that's what your concerns are, straight to a hoist. What I'm trying to do here is it's a border of when you actually introduce the hoist and not. The top sheet and the silk removes that, but that patient maybe has been using a standing aid of some description. It could be electric or manual, and all of a sudden it's a good way of introducing the hoist. Once you get really heavy limbs, and we'll be doing that with me and turning in the bed on Friday in sessions, because obviously I'll be lifting more, John will be lifting me again. And they're actually on our webinars that we've done before, and on the List Clare YouTube site, you'll actually see that. It's all about choice here. And to show you how to plan A and plan B, or at least you can define where you would introduce the hoist yourself. If the limbs are too heavy to lift, I bring in the hoist. If you're worried about shear and friction completely, and the patient has a high water load score, hoist. This is more where you've got a patient using a stand aid or getting in and out of the bed with a wee Zimmer or walking frame to make life easier, but they can't just get the legs in themselves. I've actually seen 2-3 products that are designed to do that. One was a Swedish product that you got with the bed and it lifted the limb in. But it was basically like a gantry overhead hoist built into the bed, which I didn't see the point of it because it was like £9,000, where you could get a gantry in and a bed cheaper. There was old days where they used to do the leg lifter, where it used to bring the leg up in the air. But again, you need something to slide across. And this is one of the reasons why the in-bed system, it actually does remove the friction and the shear completely. And if you actually ever get to physically try one, you'll see what I mean when you profile the bed. Take the sheets off altogether, profile it and don't move, and then put the sheets on and profile it and just do the wiggles that I showed you, and you'll see the difference. Next question, Donna.
Our community beds have a high footboard, which may impede the use of the limb slings when you walk around the end of the bed. That's
why I always use the limb sling, because it's longer and you'll actually go around the inside of the board. I just had to use this bed because you could see what it was doing, because if I have the footboard on it, you can't see it. But it actually works. Our Dali bed actually comes with a footboard. Our Allura comes with a higher footboard, and it still works. The problem with the shorter versions, which I'll show you. Look at the length of the limb sling compared to the lifting belt. This is one of the reasons why I needed a limb sling today. I went into a slight panic, but John, good old lad, had one in his things. So if I came around here, you'll see that I'll be over the end of the bed end. Any other questions?
Yep. What is the safe weight load of the bed rails?
These bed rails are designed to take 220 kilograms. This is one of the newer ones, but again, that can be answered by our manager. This is a Regia bed, and again, you'll actually see this. This is one of the most modern beds that we sell now, but a standard nursing bed with this is where I'll bore you all, with BS 60601-2-52 is actually weight tested for the patient's weight on the side rails. They're designed to be moved and pulled at. This one's a special one because that side rail is also an assist rail. That's why I said on a nursing bed, you might just have the assist rail bolted to the frame. On a divan bed, they slide underneath. All the OTs will be nodding at that one. And basically, this gives you a choice of having a side rail and an assist rail on the same bed.
Regarding the bed system, is it possible to help stop someone from sliding down the bed when sitting in an upright position?
Yep, you can lock it out. And I'll be doing that on the next session.
And does the folding the sheet stop this, or is it more just using the profile of the bed with positioning?
I would use both. I would use the folding the sheet and profiling the bed. And if the bed doesn't profile, I would use a rolled up towel under the mattress if it's a divan bed.
And I'm just doing this here. Mediquip.
Oh, well, no. We'll answer all the other emails online, because the loan stores and Mediquip is something that you can approach your area manager. Some of the Mediquip stores are buying them, so it's just NRS, those they equip you in Glasgow, etc., etc. But we can answer that separately, because the in-bed systems are what makes life a lot easier in care. It was the thing I introduced 10 years ago by doing the Wendylets in Ireland. And it's now standard issue for every bed in Ireland and for home care. It's a lot easier for both patient and care. I'm sorry about the loss of sound. I don't know how much we got and didn't get. If you want to do this again, we shall. Donna can sort that out in the long run, because he's in charge of all our invites, etc. It will be recorded. I might be able to sound over it for Ruben, just to make sure. Hopefully you enjoyed that. As I say, we're trying to do wee lunchtime sessions like this, where you're getting more out of it, rather than doing a 4-hour stint. And plus, with the lights, it gets kind of warm, as John will tell you. And any other wee questions, please don't hesitate to log on or ask any of the Listler area representatives, which we can send you that list out at the end of the registration email. So I'd like to thank you all for attending. Hopefully you got something out of that. And again, if there's any questions that you'd like answered, please just put them in the inbox and we'll see them.